Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices like Azul Queen's Garden. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be building a garden, but not just any garden, it's going to be for the Queen. Today we're taking a look at the fourth installment of a standalone Azul game called Azul Queen's Garden. Let me show you how it works and I'll see you on the other side. Azul Queen's Garden comes with tiles of 6 different colors: light purple, dark purple, blue, dark green, light green, and yellow. But each of those colors have 6 different patterns on there, each of them denoting a different thing. Like a tree is just one big object. A bird has 2 wings. Butterfly, 3 of them. This flower has 4 petals. This has 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aspects of it. This has 6, and that's going to be important because those numbers have to do with how much it costs to place those tiles, but also how many points you'll get for those towards the end of the game. So each of these colors have all 6 of these, and there's 3 copies of each of them of each color. Each player gets their own player board that they're going to be building the Queen's Garden on. They also have a storage board where they're going to be storing tiles in order to place here. So over the course of the game, you're going to be getting tiles and placing them on your board. Now the game lasts 4 rounds. Let's just assume at the end of the first round, this is how your board looks. You might have some more tiles on this in the real game, but let's just assume that's how it worked. Now there's a main scoreboard. It also tells you what's going to score at the end of each round. This whole section here, you'll see these teeth all point to these 3 sections. You'll see these lines delineating. This means for every dark green, you're going to get a point. For every tree, regardless of color, you're going to get a point. And for every light blue, you'll get a point. And so we would score those. So again, every light blue would get a point, so we get 1, 2, 3. Every dark green would get a point. I get another one, so 4. But each tree, I have one of those, so it's 5. Notice this one counted for both of those, because typically the tiles are going to be scoring for both colors and patterns throughout the game. That would be how you scored at the end of the first round. But then for the next round, this goes over to the next sort of section here. So now the next section is birds are 1 point, butterflies are 2 points, and dark purple are a point. And as you go on, they'll change as which colors score, and there'll be different patterns that score, but the ones that are harder to get out are actually going to be worth a little bit more points as it goes on. So you have some visibility as to what things you want to go for now versus later for some short versus long-term strategy. Plus, you can flip this board over. You would actually take this little piece out and put it on top here, and you could score differently. So if you play on this variant, the first round, the 6s, which are the hardest one to get out, are worth 6 points. It's really hard to get it out, but if you get out in the first round, it's 6 points. So it has different ways that things score. It almost sort of goes in reverse where the harder ones score earlier, so it just makes you play the game a little bit differently. Then at the end of the 4th round, you're going to do some final game scoring. At the end of the game, any group that you have that's at least 3 or larger is going to score. And you're going to score each of the colors one at a time. Everyone's going to score them, so blue, dark purple, all the way down. Then you're going to score each of the patterns for end game scoring, only on groups that are 3 or larger. Now typically you'd have more tiles on this at the end of the game, but it's here to show you that first you do blue. This is a group of 3 contiguous blues, so that would score, and we would score the amount of points as those things are. 1, this one scores 3 because it has 3 butterflies, 4 for the 4 petals, so that would be 4 plus 3 plus 1, so that is going to be 8 points for blue. This blue there's just one of them, there's not 3 in another contiguous group, so that one wouldn't score anything. So we do that for all of the colors. Now notice when we get down to patterns, butterflies, this one scores, all 3 of these score because you have at least a group of 3 contiguous. Each of those are worth 3 points because there's 3 butterflies, so that's 9 points. We would also score dark green here because there's at least 3 here. This pattern we would not score because there's only 2, you need to have at least 3. But if we were able to score those, that would be great, because even here on the green one, this is 3 points, that's 1, this one's 6. So if you're able to get big groups of 6 together, they can score you a lot of points, but they're also the hardest to get out, as I'll show you in a moment. And also, any of the groups that you have, any of the colors or patterns that you have that's a group of 6 or more, you're going to get an additional 6 points. So that's sort of how end of round scoring works and the end of the game works. That's what you're trying to do, so let's show you how you go about doing that. Now the drafting of the tiles is very different in this version of Azul, where we see some tiles here that are available, and one of the actions is you can take tiles, and when you do that you can take all the same color or all the same pattern, but you can never get 2 of the same tile. So if there was another light blue tree, you couldn't take both of them, for example. But here I could take both of these blues because all blues. I could take both of these petals, these flowers of 4 essentially, because they're both that, or I could take a dark purple, which is the only one, or I could take a bird, which is the only one. So in this case, let's say we take all the blues. Now you'll place them anywhere on an open spot on your storage board. You can only hold a certain amount. If you're full, you can't take it. Or if you were to take more than you have spaces for, you can't take those tiles. These are jokers, which we'll talk about later. They're sort of wilds. Now, anytime anyone takes at least one tile from the top of the stack, that tile comes off and 4 new tiles are put back on there. And just like the other Azuls, there's a nice little bag that holds all the tiles. So now it's the next player's turn. If they want to take tiles, they have the same option. However, now they can choose from everything that's out there. So for example, if they want to take light green, they'd have to take all the light greens, assuming that they're not exactly the same tile. So they would have to take from here and here. If they wanted to take birds, they would have to take this bird and this bird. However, maybe you only want one of those. You could say, no, I'm taking all the yellows and take just this one, even though it's a bird. This one you could say, oh, I just want just dark purple. You'd take just this one. But if you wanted both of them, you could say, I'm taking birds. So you have a lot of different ways to slice and dice and get the tiles that you want or don't want in this game. However, let's just say it looked like this and the next player grabbed the 2 birds. They grabbed these, put them on their storage. Now, when this is empty, this now flips up and this is available to take as well. And just like before, if you take at least one of here, that comes down. And the new 4 tiles go on this top one. So now on a future turn, if it's your turn, you want to take things. If you want to take all the dark greens, you would take this and you would take this and you'd add the tile to storage, but you'd also add an expansion to your garden. Here you can hold up to 2 of those. So let's say on your turn you wanted to place a tile. Let's say I wanted to place this blue tree. Now the tree, if you remember, is just 1. The cost is 1. Now you have to spend that much, but putting this on your board counts as one of the ones. So essentially, if you have a tree of a color, you can essentially place it for free. Now when you place it, you can place it in an empty spot that doesn't have anything next to it. Or if it looked like this, you can also place it in a spot as long as it has the same color or pattern of at least one thing next to it. So even though it doesn't match this in color or pattern, it can go here because it matches at least in color. Now, you can never have the same exact tile in the same contiguous group, meaning the same color and pattern. And even if you join 2 big groups together, they can't join together any 2 of the same exact tiles there. Now let's say I wanted to place this blue butterflies right here to get this group larger. In order to do that, again, you have to pay the cost. It's 1, 2, 3 because it's there. It helps remind you here what the costs are. But again, if you look at the elements, you can pretty much tell like I showed you before. So we place this, one of them is paid by this. I just pay 2 more. I have to pay either 2 of the same color, but that's a different pattern, or 2 of the same pattern, that's a different color. So for example, this is butterflies. I could pay 2 other butterflies. I could pay this one, and these would get discarded off my storage and I would pay for those. Now, much like some of the newer Azuls, it has this big tower that usually stands up and you would be placing them right in there. So when you run out of tiles on the draw bag, this would get poured back in like the other Azuls. However, you can never use 2 of the same tiles. So for example, I had 2 butterflies to pay. I could not use both of these because they're both the same. Also, if this is what it looked like, I could not pay with this because it's the same pattern or color as the one that I'm placing. So there are some restrictions. It's a little hard to get some of these things out. So in this case, I could pay these 2 and get those out because that would be 2 and 3, for example. However, I might not have had those and I wanted to place this. I still have 2 more to pay. I can't use this because it's also blue and butterflies like this. But this is how you use the jokers. You just remove these off to the board into a supply. Essentially those act as wilds, but they never actually go on your garden. Now let's say this is starting to get a little filled up and I want to add it. And I earlier took an expansion here. I want to place this and I want to place it sort of just like this. You can orient it any way you want because I'm going to start building patterns for that type of flower there. And because it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, also shown here, this counts as 1. I've got to pay for the cost again 4 others, either all dark green or all that pattern. Remember, it can't match. So this one here, I could pay 4 other dark greens. 1, 2, 3. I could not do this because it's also the same as another one. So I couldn't do that. And just like this matches this, I couldn't use this to pay for this cost either. So this, I need 4 others. I could go 1, 2, 3, 4. Pay the joker, pay those into the thing, and I'm able to put those in just like that. So that's sort of how you get tiles both drawn into here and placed. Now, if you really need an extension and there aren't ones available and you really need it this moment, you can take one from a stack of a supply, but you'd lose 6 points for doing that and it stays face down. That's something that you would only do if you're really stuck, in my experience. However, the face down is important because at the end of the round, not only do you score the ways I showed you before, but each of these gardens has a pavilion in the middle, and each of those add a point as well, where the ones that you paid 6 points for are face down, you don't get the extra point for those. Now, you'll also notice different aspects of your board here. If you ever surround these, much like in the third Azul, Summer Pavilion, you get a certain bonus. If it's this middle one, you'll get 1 joker tile. If it's this or the bench, as shown here, you'll get 2. And if you end up surrounding one of the ones from the expansion tiles, you'll get 3. And that's the way you get jokers back in the game. So towards the end of the round, it might look something like this, and you might decide, you know what, I don't want anything there, I want to pass. You'll take this. In this version of Azul, it's not that bad, you just lose 1 point, but you will go first next round, and you're out for the rest of the round. And the other players keep going until all players pass, and that's the end of the round. And you want to end the round scoring and do everything that I showed you before. You play this over 4 rounds, and then at the end of the game, whoever has the most points is the winner. All right, well, there's Queen's Garden, and I've been a fan of pretty much all the Azuls that have come out, so let's talk about why this one is different, and at the end I'll talk about which one I still like the best versus this one. How does this one fit with all the others? The big thing here is the second dimension, because you're not just looking for colors. You've always just been looking for colors in all the 3 previous Azuls and putting them in different ways to score. Here you're looking at a second dimension of now adding patterns, and not just patterns and colors, but patterns or colors and all sorts of permutations of those. And it really adds like a very brain burnery, crunchy aspect to this game. This feels like the biggest brother or sister of all the other Azuls because of that. There's just so much more to think about. You think, yeah, it's cool. You add a pattern now too. No, it really rewires your brain. You really have to think of Azul in a different way because of this. So it is a fresh and different way to play Azul at a much different level for sure. You're always trying to balance, trying to place the ones that are hard to pay for with the easy ones, because the hard ones, you know, they cost a lot more tiles, which means you have to do a lot more planning in order to place those. But when you do place them, they're going to score you more points than the early ones. So you're trying to balance when to place those, when not to place those. Are you running out of storage? Which patterns are you trying to link together? There's a lot of different things to think about, and you're always trying to sort of balance those aspects when you're placing the tiles. I like that you're also trying to possibly build groups of 6 or more to have even more points at the end of the game of having these different groups, because that could be the difference. Now, on the back side of the board, I don't think I showed this part of it in the overview. I showed how it scores differently in the round and such, but at the end of the game, there's actually different ways to score for the bonuses. You can actually score for, I think, 5, 6, or groups of 5, 6, or 7, or it's slightly different, and the scoring is different. So that adds a little bit different to it as well. The fact that every tile you place, you got to think, okay, I'm going to be scoring this for the color or the pattern, but not necessarily. You're actually scoring it for both. And I like that because one tile could be scoring twice, once for a color group of 3 at the end of the game, and once for a pattern, and also for the end of the round scoring too. You know, the blue and the tree comes out in the first round, right? So if you get that blue tree out, it's gonna give you a point for blue and a point for the tree. But even more so at the end of the game, that blue tree is now gonna score you if you're in a group of 3 or larger blues, great, but also if it's in a group of 3 or more trees of different colors coming from different angles. So I like that when you're placing things, again, that second element of trying to score everything as much you can for twice and being as efficient as possible is what you're trying to do, and it really makes you think in a different way than any other Azul. I love the different flow. Up until this point, the flow of taking tiles in Azul has been pretty similar. There's been some differences on how to take minuses and how punishing it is, but this one is very different where you only see 4 tiles at the beginning, and then as soon as someone takes one, that comes out and 4 more come out. If nobody takes from that top stack, then no new ones come out. So it's such an interesting aspect. It changes what you know from Azul, and it makes that drafting aspect feel different. Is that like, as the round goes on, more and more new tiles reveal. Now in the other Azuls, the round gets set up and you're already looking at the tiles going, oh great, I need this one and I need that one. I hope no one takes those. And then once those are gone, you're trying to like figure out how to get out of the round without getting crushed essentially. Here it's like, okay, I don't want any of those. Maybe I'll place one, right? And wait for more to come out. And then it's like, oh, maybe more will come out. And you have this like angst and turnings of hoping to, and the timing of like whether you want new tiles to come out now or not is very interesting. Also, as those tiles come off, then those gardens flip over. Now those are sort of things that you could take as well. So it's all interconnected and it works very differently. I like that it's like a different feel. So you're going to be like pivoting quite a bit in this game, even though there's a longer term strategy that you're setting things up, similar to the Summer Pavilion, where that's more of a long-term planning game. This has a little bit of both, some long-term planning, but also some tactical strategies there. I like that you're surrounding the aspects for jokers. I like that in Summer Pavilion, it works well here. And the 2 sides for the board of the different round scoring and the different endgame scoring works well as well. On the negative side of things, the yellow tiles. Almost always in a game, if there's a yellow tile and there's white printing on it, you can't really see it well. Same thing here. From across the table, you can't tell what's there on the white, on the yellow. I always would prefer black printing on a yellow tile. It just shows up so much better. Sure, it would have been quite as beautiful as having everything look the same, but for playability, white on yellow never works well, and it doesn't work well here either. This one is definitely way harder to teach than any other Azul. This isn't an Azul you're going to take off the shelf and teach someone for the first Azul if they're not a gamer. You kind of need to have some legging of Azul to go into this to learn it quickly. And even with that being said, there's a lot of little rules and things to remember that you can get stumped up on. Like, it's like, oh, okay, I can put this here. And it's okay to be like, okay, you can't have two of the same things in the same group. That's fine. But like, oh, when you pay with this, you can't pay with the same tile. Oh, you take a bunch of tiles? Well, you can take all the yellows, but you can't take that one because it's the same as that one. Oh, well, guess what? You can take the pattern instead and not have to take that. Or, I gotta pay for this. I need 4 of these. Oh, I can't use anything that matches and color or pattern of the tile I'm placing or any of the tiles that I'm using. And actually the translation from the German version to the English version wasn't quite as clear. I had to go back and look at some of the responses from the publisher and stuff because it's actually quite restrictive. And I say all this to say, restrictive isn't necessarily bad, but this is definitely a much harder teach than any other Azul. It takes a while to get in. It's one of those games that like you're gonna have to play it a whole first time and go, oh, okay, I get it. Now let's play it again. And now I've got an idea of what I'm trying to do. It's a much harder one to get to the table for sure. Also, some errors might not get caught. Like you might have 2 contiguous groups of dark purple and you like might just join them and not realize, oh crap, I would just join 2, one way over here, one way over on the other side. That's the same exact tile. I wasn't able to do that, but I didn't catch it till later. And there's nothing in the rules to say what happens if that happens. So, and that can happen because there's a lot to think about in this game. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I've liked all the Azuls, loved most of the Azuls. So where does this stack for me? My favorite is still stained glass of Sintra because that one is, in my opinion, the most streamlined of all of them, the easiest to teach of all of them, but also offers just as much depth, in my opinion, than all the other ones. The original Azul, which I wasn't in love with when I first played it, has really grown on me over time. That's still my second favorite. This is my third favorite. And Summer Pavilion is the last. I don't dislike that one. I just feel like you get stuck right at the beginning going with a strategy and you kind of have to stick with that strategy the entire game if you want to win because of the compounding scoring. In this one, this has a good mix of long-term planning, trying to plan patterns of different colors and things, kind of like Summer Pavilion, and circling different things like that. But it also has that sort of quick and tactical aspects of the different way the tiles come out. If you liked Summer Pavilion the best, I think if you like that longer term planning and things like that, and you liked that it was a little bit heavier than the other ones, I think this is gonna be right up your alley. If you really liked the first and second Azul, but you thought the third one was, I'm looking for something lighter, this is not gonna be the one for you. For me, I liked the third one, but I was much more loved the first and second one. This one's like slotting right in the middle there. I like it just after the first 2, but better than Summer Pavilion. But I really enjoy it. I also think this is one that even 20, 50 plays in, you're still gonna be seeing new nuances and stuff. It's definitely a good effort, and for some of you, it's probably gonna be your favorite, and you know who that is by the time you've watched this video. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games, and helping you on the next one you'll love. Game Toppers not only transforms your existing table to a high-quality gaming solution, they now offer full leg kits and dining cover solutions for the full table application. Paired with their amazing, thematic, premium stitch edge mats from noted board game artists like Vincent Dutray, collapsible cup holders, and really cool accessories, it's a complete system that upgrades every game you play. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below.